All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me again on part 2 of gym terminology. So we're going to follow the same little format that we had last time. Just basically going to break down your common lingo or just verbiage terminology that you're typically going to hear from trainers or pretty much just in the gym. All right, so we're going to go through about 6 or 7 words, break them down, maybe not the most scientific way, but something that's going to relate specifically to you. Once again, if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button. That helps out this channel so much. If you have any other words or slang terms or a phrase that you're not really sure of that you always hear, let me know. I'll break that down in another edition. But other than that, let's hop right to it. So I'll do my best to write as big as possible so you can see everything I'm talking about. I'll try to be brief with them. The first one is metabolic or metabolism, however you hear it being used. So I'm going to relate this to what I usually say. So when I'm doing a class or training someone, I'll say, this is a very metabolic exercise or a very metabolic class or a workout in general. So what I mean by this is, so first of all, metabolism is this process that is always happening in everyone's body. If you're breathing, if you're alive, then you're having metabolism happen in your body. It's the ability of your body to break down different forms of energy through food and drink and turn it into energy that your body can now move, talk, breathe with it. Okay, so if we're doing an exercise or a workout that I say is strictly metabolic, that means that we might not be using a whole lot of weights. We could be, but primarily I'm going to be talking about very fast moving exercises, high intensity exercise, high intensity interval training, Tabata, anything with low rest, because what this is going to do is it's looking to boost your metabolism. So I don't want to get too in depth, but basically what we're going to be doing, a metabolic exercise, something that's going to burn a lot more calories because all we're trying to do is increase your metabolism. That's the primary goal of that exercise workout, as opposed to building strength or breaking through a plateau or anything like that. So basically, metabolic means high sweat, high heart rate, which in turn turns to increasing your metabolism and burning more calories. All right, so it's metabolism or metabolic. Okay, the next one, you're going to see the theme here, anabolic. Okay. Not nearly as commonly used as metabolic or metabolism, but anabolic, if I say a workout or an exercise is anabolic, this means that it is the process of building up. So now the main goal, as opposed to just increasing your metabolism, increasing your heart rate, increasing the calorie burn, now we're looking to build muscle. Okay, so we're increasing the muscle size. So if you are someone who is strictly looking at increasing their weights or looking good as far as aesthetically, or you're going for hypertrophy or strength goals, you're looking for anabolic workouts. So typically you're going to be involved with heavier weights. Now, don't get confused, because I don't mean that if you're using heavy weights, you're not increasing your metabolism. Just the typical theme of what you're going to see if you walk into a gym and you're setting up for a class and there's a bunch of heavy weights. It doesn't necessarily mean it's specifically now anabolic. Okay, it kind of depends on how the class is run with the rest intervals and the different types of exercises that are composed with that. So it's very short and sweet what anabolic means. So you almost want to think of anabolic as strength gain, whereas metabolic is fat burn. Okay, so next we're going to go into starvation mode. I know I still write like a 4-year-old, but that's why I speak it as well as write it. So starvation mode is relating to someone, say you're trying to lose fat. I always say lose fat, supposed to lose weight. Okay, and you're eating very little, you're being very careful with what you're eating, you're in a negative net caloric balance, because simply that is the only way to actually lose fat, is be in a negative net caloric balance. You've been doing this forever, but you've kind of gone stagnant, but you feel like you're in like a starvation mode. You're eating very, very little, which we want to avoid. So a lot of the times when we look at a dietary recall or just look at what you're eating for someone that's in a phase like this, is they're actually under eating, which is just as risky, as harmful as overeating can be. Because what happens is when you eat such little amount of calories, your body goes into starvation mode. So it basically slows down your metabolism. Whoop, everything circles right back around to metabolism, right? So now your body it thinks it's stranded on an island. So it's going to try to preserve all that energy and all those macros that it has in your body. So it's going to go into starvation mode. So now all of a sudden you aren't able to get your heart rate up as high when you do a workout. You're not burning as many calories because your metabolism has now slowed down. Maybe you're not doing the right type of exercises that are increasing your metabolism. So everything kind of ties into this. Another word that we're going to kind of relate to this is intermittent fasting or fasting. If you wake up and go to the gym in the morning and don't eat or drink anything before that workout, you're in starvation mode because you haven't, odds are you slept or at least in your bed for 8 hours, and you may have not even ate anything an hour or two before you went to bed. And now you're at the gym for an hour, where it took you a half hour to get ready. So you're talking close to 10 hours where you haven't had anything in your body. So your body's in starvation mode. So now it's going to take energy from wherever it possibly can in order to get through that workout. And depending on what your goals are, this can be very counterproductive. Okay. So for someone who's strictly trying to maybe gain size or build muscle mass. So this is, I don't want to say elderly population, but your older population. So females over the age of 55 and males over the age of 50. You should always be trying to build muscle because you're naturally losing muscle every single day. So starvation mode, going for a workout in the morning when you have no energy in your body, is counterproductive because now you're trying to build muscle, but you don't have any energy to actually build your muscle. Your energy storages are low, so your actual performance is going to be as high, meaning that you're not going to be able to lift the amount of weights that you could properly because your energy levels are so low. So you can see a lot of risk with the starvation mode and just the negative falls. That's what we look at a lot these days is anyone that wants to lose weight, wants to lose fat, everyone's like, eat less, eat less, eat less. Well, obviously, but eat less only up to a certain point. Then it becomes very risky. Because there's also psychological effects. So someone who goes into a keto, and I don't want to get too off topic, but so who goes into a keto or goes into the starvation mode, or it turns into not intermittent fasting, but permanent fasting, you tend to have psychological effects. You can turn into depression, loss of hair, loss of sleep, mental alertness at work. There's a lot of risky behaviors and adverse effects that happen with this. So I don't want to go too much on that, but I can really get off on tangents, so we'll try to avoid that. Gluten, I swear I'll be quick with this one. Gluten. One of the buzziest of buzzwords that we've all heard over the last maybe 5 years. Okay, so gluten is a type of protein that is found in wheat. So a lot of bread, a lot of that starchy type of food. I believe it's under 1%. Maybe it's even, I believe it's a 0.5%. It could even be lower than that, but I'm sure those numbers are starting to inflate now, of the US population have a disease called celiac, okay? So if you're in a room with 100 people, maybe not even one of those person has celiac disease. Someone who has celiac disease is someone that cannot digest sustained gluten in their food. They have a bad reaction to it, okay? A lot of foods these days are starting to be put out as gluten-free. You go to any restaurant, half the menu says GF next to it, gluten-free, okay? So unless you're one of these 1% or less than that, 1/2% of the population that is celiac, you should probably keep gluten in your diet, okay? There's a lot of important minerals and nutrients, and I always relate this to eggs. A lot of people ask, should I only eat the egg whites as opposed to the yolks? Well, I wouldn't take out the yolks completely because there's a lot of good fats. Yeah, cholesterol, of course. There's a lot of good fats, proteins, minerals, and nutrients that you're missing completely if you have the yolks. What I tell people is if you have 3 eggs, have 1 or 2 yolks and have all the whites, right? That way you're still getting the best of both worlds. So that's kind of the gluten thing. Unless you have celiac, you should have gluten in your diet, or else you're depriving your body of certain nutrients and minerals that you should be intaking anyway. All right? My quick little thing on gluten. Failure versus exhaustion. Okay? I'm actually not going to write this because that's going to take me a while to write. Let me just explain this. It'll make it very quick. So if I say we're going for an exercise, doing a certain amount of reps until failure, that means you're doing as many as you possibly can, and you can't possibly get that last rep. Okay, so if you're doing a chest press, you fail. Okay, your arms give out and they fall. That is going to a failure. That is involved with strength gain, someone who is strictly trying to build strength and have their numbers and weights increase. Okay, Going to exhaustion is a little bit more related to maybe a timed interval or someone more involved in fat burning. So this is going until you're saying, once again, we're doing chest presses, all right, and your arms are burning, right? You're out of breath and you say, oh, like you maybe could do 5 more, but you're exhausted. You feel like your arms are going to fall off, all right? So you just put them down, okay? That's exhaustion as opposed to failure. Exhaustion is usually involved with high reps. So we're talking 12 to 20, 25 reps, whereas failure is typically going to involve anywhere from 1 rep to maybe 8. Okay, so there's a difference between the strength gain going to failure and the fat burning high reps timed interval of going to exhaustion. All right, short and simple. I hope I did that one pretty well. Activation exercise. We're almost there. An activation exercise, aka a priming exercise, is something that you do involved with your warm-up. Let's make this very simple. If you're squatting, okay, and to relate to most females, you have a different hip angle because you can give birth. So you have a different hip angle, more like a V as opposed to men. Therefore, your knees are more prone to caving in. Therefore, females are actually 4 times up to 8 times more likely to tear their ACL because of this reason. One of the muscles that controls this or does not allow this to happen is your glute medius, the outside your hip, and it's one of the 3 major muscles that are involved in your glutes. Okay, so if you're squatting and you're prone to your knees caving in, you're going to do an exercise that activates that glute med, the outside of the butt, that controls pushing the knees nice and wide. So what you would do is lateral band walks, right? I'm sure we've all done those. Put a mini band around your ankles, walk side to side. That's going to light up and activate the glute medius. Now, when you go into your squat, that muscle's already going to be active. It's going to be firing. It's going to be ready to work. Okay, so now those knees aren't going to cave in as much. Okay, that's an activation exercise. You're just trying to recruit a specific muscle in order to avoid improper form. It's the most simple way to put it. We have one more. Okay, and I actually want to start using this one a little bit more. RPE is your rate of preserved exertion. Perceived exertion, as I messed that up, right? So this is what you yourself perceive as the effort that you're putting in. So there's actually used on a lot of different scales, but let's make it simple, scale of 1 to 10. So if something is a 10 on the RPE scale, that means that it is extremely hard. If you're counting reps, you can probably only do a few, and then you hit that failure, okay? If it's a 1 or a 2, that's probably just, you're walking around your office, right? So we'll use this a lot in training or group classes and saying, this exercise should be at about an RPE 7. All right, so that means that it should be fairly heavy or fairly exhausting depending on the nature of the exercise. All right, so we know what level we're trying to get up to. If we're trying to, this exercise is RP of 3. All right, so this is probably more of a recovery, a slower motion exercise, something you should be catching your breath and being slow and deliberate with, okay? So let's just give a few quick examples. A general warm-up, probably like a 3, okay? A max deadlift, probably like a 9 or a 10. Doing jumping jacks for 30 seconds, probably like a 5. Doing max burpees for 30 seconds, probably about a 7. And how about a cool down? 2, 3, a nice walk, probably 1 or a 2. And a jog, about a 5. And a sprint, 9 or 10. Bunch of little examples, RPE. So you can use this to figure out what your workout should be is ask the trainer, ask the person on staff, ask the coach, ask the fitness instructor, say, what level RPE should I be at? Because if you're doing deadlifts and the trainer's thinking in his head, this should be at RPE 8, 9, and you're doing super light, you're barely out of breath. This is easy for you to pull off the ground. You're thinking this is RPE 5. It's good to get that communication between that coach trainer so that all right, you should be going up, all right, or going down, depending on it. If it's a light day and your coach has that trained, they should be telling you that, all right? So those are the second edition of gym terminology. Hopefully you learned a few things that you can use to increase your workout in many different ways. Okay, make it more productive, make it more efficient, get to your goals specifically. All right, so thank you for watching. Hit the like button if you found this useful. And once again, let me know if there's any more terminology, slang terms, phrase that you'd like me to go over. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep moving.